keep forgetting what the podcast is called. So you're right. I'm hoping the last one I started loads of times because I kept going. What's it called again? Oh, opinion. That's right. Right, here we go. I'll do a welcome thing, and then I'll introduce you, and then yes.
Yeah.
I might talk about the medal. Might talk about the medal thing. I'm going to talk about your mug.
My mug. Oh, you should.
Talk about your mug. Okay, welcome to Opinion Piece. This is a new podcast that I've been doing. I've just done a couple of episodes, and this time I'm joined by somebody, which is always nice because the conversation, and there she is. This is Zeta Bikova. Hello, Zeta.
Hi, Stephen.
Tell us something about you that we'd be interested in.
Pretty boring, but I'm a lecturer. I'm a senior lecturer in health, wellbeing and society, also known as health and social care, which is a fantastic degree. I have been taught by you in the past.
Briefly, yes, a little bit, yes.
So I remember our conversations and how much I enjoyed talking to you about capitalism and socialism, which is why I wanted to do this podcast with you. So yeah.
That's very
Anything
nice.
else? I've got a chihuahua.
Have you now?
Talk about
Are they not just the most kind of ridiculous little pointless dogs in the world?
Not my Maxie. He's lovely.
Oh,
He's
Maxie
lovely.
Maxie the dog. You have an interesting mug there. I've got an interesting mug as well. What's your interesting mug?
Oh, it's a Newcastle mug. Newcastle upon Tyne, it says in it.
Newcastle upon Tyne.
That's where I live. I work in England.
You live in Newcastle, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm in Jordan.
However, with a name like that, I suspect your roots maybe are somewhere else.
Yes. So I'm Eastern European. I was raised in Bulgaria, but I do have Russian heritage. And we came when I was 9 because my mum's a midwife. And she got requested to come and help out at the RVI, and we kind of ended up staying. So yeah, I'm very proud of my Eastern European roots.
Excellent. And we have talked about communism and the like, and I think we'll save that for another venture into the podcast territory because it's really interesting. Because I've been reading quite a bit of Marx over the summer, so we might pick that up later on. But we have a theme for today already. My mug is Shakespearean insults.
I love Shakespeare.
And it's my favorite mug. It's my work mug. Now this is important. We transition into work by having signs and symbols of work. Yeah. So I don't use this mug any other time unless I'm working. So it signifies to me that I'm working. This is my Shakespearean insults mug.
What does it say? Can you read us?
Oh, it says all sorts of things. You are light of brain is one of them, which I really like. That's quite good. You are the veriest varlet that ever chewed with a tooth.
It's
very good, isn't it? Yeah. It's like my favourite one, which isn't on here. My favourite Shakespearean thing, which isn't on here, is I would challenge you to a duel of wits, but I see you are unarmed.
Oh, I like that.
Like that, yeah. So yes. Did you see the thing on the news about the Great North Run medals? Couldn't write it.
I did. I don't know what my opinion is on it, to be honest with you. Tell me what you think.
I think it's best not to have an opinion on these kind of things. But I just think, because of the intense local rivalry, it just makes it so amusing, doesn't it? That somebody somewhere has just thought, oh, river, yeah, that'll do. Let's get it on and nobody's thought to kind of check that. So I was just thinking, as I was reading it in the paper this morning, I'm thinking somebody's got sacked today, haven't they? Really, I'd imagine.
More than likely.
Or they're on a written warning at least, I would hope.
More than likely. Well, I'm glad it's not us. Let's keep it that way.
Absolutely. Let's keep it that way and try not to say anything controversial. So there you go. So the thing we're going to talk about.
Yes.
This. As soon as I was going to say this theoretical concept. As soon as you say that, right, people switch off. So let's just say this idea. This idea we're going to talk about. I was sat in a team meeting, and and we were talking. You weren't there at this team meeting, and we were talking about somebody needed a lecture, kind of on a particular kind of issue or a particular kind of theme, particular idea about the modern world and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And one of our other lecturer colleagues said, "Oh, you need Zeta on that. She'll talk to you about liquid modernity." And I immediately went, "Damn, I don't know anything about liquid modernity." And I do think, even though I hear when people use mobile phones in meetings or classrooms or anywhere really, I think, if I remember rightly, I actually went online onto Amazon, ordered the book, Zygmunt Bauman's book, ordered the book, and it was delivered the next day. And I was like, and then you start to read it and you go, wow. And I love it. And people will see this. You're going to explain this to us, but you'll see this. Isn't it lovely when you read something and it completely explains how things are, and you go, somebody's written down the things that I think are kind of wrong with the world. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so we're going to talk. Well, you're going to talk about liquid modernity. I'm just going to chip in from the sidelines. This is an easy ride for me.
Please chip in, because I'll feel like a narcissist if I'm constantly giving example with myself in my life. So the theory, I didn't even know about it up until last year. So I had to teach a module on the health and social care degree, health, wellbeing and society, also known as. And one of my colleagues, Annalisa, has actually introduced this theory, which I absolutely love. And teaching it and learning about it just made me think of how true it is, and how we need to be aware of society, and especially capitalism and what it's turning into now. And what Bauman suggests is the reason why mental health has increased and substance misuse is because of capitalism. But we'll talk about it in more detail. I do hope this doesn't turn into a lecture, because I just feel like it will be better if it's interactive. I do have a tendency to turn it into a lecture. You can ask my friends and family, and they just kind of tell me to stop. So just tell me to stop.
That's nice to hear, because my family can spot when I switch into lecturer mode. Mm-hmm. They'll ask me a question. I'll just be having a general conversation with them, and then they'll be like, "Stop it, stop it! Our voices must shift." I think there's a subtle shift in tonal quality, I think, and you're kind of like, right, I'm in lecture mode now. One thing, even before you get into the theory, one thing that I think is interesting, I firmly believe that by having to teach something, you really, really learn about it.
Yeah.
You said, and I think that's why I keep saying to students, you've got to write it down in your own words. You've got to think about it. You've got to do all those things that we would do if we were preparing to teach something. And only then do you really kind of grapple with it, I think. But anyway, yes. So yeah, no, I'll keep chipping in. Don't worry. We're all good.
And with this theory, I think people start to question the choices that they make. And because I have, and the lifestyle that you lead. So I do think it's really educational. So I'm looking forward to introducing it and telling you a little bit about it.
Go on.
That's okay. Okay, so as I said, Bauman is the person who created this theory. He was a sociologist, and he talked about the ever-changing society and how things are basically no longer solid in the modern era. So he emphasizes that stability, long-term planning and social norms, something that doesn't really exist nowadays. So we're now more, the society is more liquid, meaning it's fast-paced. We tend to reflect on society by thinking about ourselves, so we're very much individualistic. There's a lot of insecurities as well. And I think liquid modernity is closely tied to the evolution of capitalism, especially its shift towards neoliberalism and also globalization. So capitalism, great. Traditionally capitalism was great. It was stable, but now it's becoming something else. I'm actually quite nervous doing this podcast. This is the first time I've done a podcast, so I might stutter.
Don't worry. We can edit stuff afterwards. It's great. Yeah, after we've done this, I can make you say anything that I want by like joining up all the different. Oh yeah. Well, I can use AI as well, can't I? And I just grab you now, and you could be in 40 podcasts. I don't know how to do that, but I'm sure you can.
I don't know as well, but it's becoming scary what they're doing with
it is.
AI.
It is. I don't know whether this ruins what you're about to say next. But the thing that I always think about, I'm a 58-year-old man, right? Okay, I have all the privileges. okay, I'm kind of middle-aged, middle class-ish, although I consider myself working class, and I'm white and all that kind of stuff. I've got all the privileges. But one of the things I often talk about, just when you're saying about this kind of, things are fluid and kind of constantly changing, it's right, isn't it? Because I say I wish I was a 50s man when I could just go to work and come in. Do you know what I mean? And me pipe and slippers would be there and everything. And I think that's what Bauman's talking about, isn't he? There was a point in time, probably the last time it was like this was 50s, maybe into the 60s a bit, where
Yeah.
people got a job and they did that job for the rest of their lives, and it completely defined them. Whereas now that's kind of not how it is it? You know what I mean?
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. And identities are changing constantly now, which is something that we'll cover today.
Yeah, go on then.
Relationships as well. So let's look at the main points now of modernity. So the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that in today's society, there's a lot of insecurities, particularly with jobs, relationships, identities. They're very fragile and uncertain. So short-term contracts, for example, are very popular. Freelance work, it's always been popular, but it's becoming even more now. So it's replacing that full-time employment. Employment often feels replaceable, and you feel replaceable as an individual. And then when we think about identities, people are constantly feeling pressured to better themselves. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but when do we actually become happy with the person that we are? It's like every New Year's Eve, I write down a few points about what I want to achieve, the type of person I want to become. And I just think, why? When am I actually going to be happy with what I have in the person that I am?
Mhm.
Isn't that interesting?
It
So
is.
identities change constantly now in today's society. They become fluid and kind of performance in a way. So social media and self-image as well. Another thing that I'm quite guilty of. I mean, you've got me on Facebook. You know what my social media is like about me, my achievements. Look at how amazing things are. And that's not actually the case. In
Yeah.
reality, it's completely different. But you never put your you never put your oh God, Stephen, I've
Yeah,
gone
yeah,
blank
no,
here.
no, you're right. No, you never. Of course,
Your problems.
you
Yeah,
curate your persona online, don't you?
yeah,
And it's just a subset of what your real kind of life
I've
is
never
about.
put my failures. It's just not what
No,
you do on social media.
no.
You don't say, "Oh, I've applied for a job and unfortunately I didn't get it because I lack experience or I lack education
Yeah,
in this specific area." Or today
and
my
if you
child
do,
has annoyed me and
yeah, yeah,
things have gone pear-shaped.
and if you do put that stuff online, you blame the other. I didn't get that job because
Yeah,
they did something wrong. They whatever. So even and it's that medium is the message thing, isn't it? Because it's online, because we're online, we behave in a particular way. You know,
definitely.
soundbite stuff, only the good stuff. Or if we're not putting the good stuff on, then we're hostile about why it went wrong. It couldn't possibly be my fault. It couldn't possibly be my fault. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So again, even if you were posting your failures online, or the things that are a bit problematic, we tend to externalize the reason that they're problematic rather than internalizing. I think there are risks in both of those things. I think, sometimes things go wrong just because things go wrong, don't
they
they?
do.
Do you know what I
They
mean?
do.
And
Sometimes it's
they're
for the best.
largely unpredictable. But yeah, we can maybe talk about Baudrillard at some point, because he talks about
Definitely.
hyperreality and how uh, online social media creates a hyper reality where we think that the reality of the social media is actual reality, and then we're disappointed when we realize it's not. And that's kind of driving all of these theorists kind of intersect. So yeah, but yes, back to you. Sorry,
No,
I,
I
I, I
totally
keep
agree.
talking too much. Go on.
No, please do. Please do. As I said, I don't want it to be just about me. Please participate. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is flexibility over stability. So, what's happening now is long-term commitments and performance don't necessarily exist as much. So when we think about, for example, living arrangements, people tend to rent a lot more than buy homes. Casual dating and short-term relationships are more common than long-term partnerships and marriages. That's for a number of different reasons, which we can get into if you want. But the rise of dating apps, I think, is one of the reasons why this is happening. You know, it's so convenient now to be in a relationship with somebody and they've annoyed you, and you then go onto an app, you're hoping to find something better, click, 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 onto the next relationship, they annoy you again, or they do something, or you do something, onto the next one. And it's that constant change. Short-term relationships are very common nowadays. When I think about my grandma and granddad, even my mum and dad, you know, they've been together for years, and I don't know many couples in today's society that you know have had that solid relationship. Might be a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing. We've got a lot more ways to you know, escape certain situations like domestic violence.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of these things, aren't there, where, especially when you're talking about a theory in its kind of purest form, almost when you're given the headlines, which is kind of what we're doing here, which is fine. You know, when you give the headlines, you can always go, oh yeah, but it's good that people can move out of relationships, and it is, but not when it becomes kind of the standard practice for everybody. Do you know what I mean? It's the stability then, doesn't it? You know, I mean, in social work, I wonder what the impact of that is in terms of the stability of family units, and what impact does that have on children? Never mind the couple in there as well, but the children in those kind of circumstances. What's the impact? So I think one of the phrases I like to kind of use all the time is, and I use it about Crocs mostly. You know, the footwear. If you've got a pair of Crocs, okay. And the phrase
no,
that
I don't wear Crocs.
Good. I didn't think you would, because you're a stylish woman. I didn't think you would. And the phrase that I use is, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So just because these opportunities are open to us to change relationships, to, you know, whatever, or wear Crocs, it doesn't mean necessarily we should. We've got to apply some critical thinking to that. And sometimes, I suppose, with the relationship thing, just picking up on that one, sometimes these routes out are too available, too easy, so we don't have to work at things anymore. We can just make it better by changing something, and I'm not sure that's always good for us.
I'm not sure, especially when there's children involved, but that's my personal opinion. I don't think, you know, not having a stable background will be beneficial for you. It might be in certain cases, but in my opinion, it might not be.
No.
So
well, there are general trends here that we're talking about, aren't we? General things that kind of are good for us, and obviously there's always outliers where actually that thing that for the majority of people is a good thing, for some people won't be, and that's fine. We're not saying that, are we? We're not saying that. Yeah. But you know, all children whose parents are separated end up being problematic, because we know that's just not the case. But there must be some issues that need to be dealt with as a consequence of that, I suppose, is kind of what we're saying. There must be some things. But anyway, right, back to Bauman.
It depends on the situation as well. If there's abuse, obviously, in the relationship, of course, you shouldn't really stay in a relationship like this. It's healthier to separate than to be with that partner. But the other thing I wanted to talk about. Sorry, did you say you wanted to say something?
No. Back to you.
Okay. Education. So, education, people no longer relying on degrees only. So, short courses, certifications, being adaptable. And me and you have talked about this. Being adaptable for the market out there. So, you're not just a teacher, you're an entrepreneur. You're not just an IT professional, you're also, I don't know, let me think of a banker or something. So there's a number of different jobs. You become flexible, don't you?
Well, you do it, like you said before, it's the whole freelance thing, isn't it? It's like, I mean, even going back to when I became a social worker, which is now like 25 years ago, even then, which was probably where this was starting to emerge as a phenomenon, I suppose, maybe a little bit longer ago than that, but it's that thing, isn't it, that already then I was in my head talking about having a portfolio of jobs, you know. So, well, and because I suppose the time I did most of my thinking about what life was all about was in the 80s. So we're right in the midst of Thatcherism. You can be whatever you want to be. I had a Filofax. I got a Filofax. I used to get the bus to work with me Filofax. You know what I mean? It's like, what was that all about? But you know, so there was this idea you could be whatever you wanted to be. You just had to work hard, and we know that people working hard doesn't necessarily equate to success. It does sometimes,
Yeah.
but it doesn't for some people in certain sets of circumstances, does it? So yeah, I can't remember why I was telling you that. Why was I telling you that?
I can't remember. This is just typical us, isn't it? We just
It's typical of us when we
can't
have a
remember.
conversation, we go off a tangent, don't we? But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've had this idea of portfolio job, and here I am. There was a point a few years back where I was working for the university a few days a week, working freelance a few days a week, working as a musician on a weekend, writing a book at the
Wow.
same time. All of those things, you know what I mean? And eventually I had to kind of think, why am I doing all of these things? And one of the other phrases that I like is, we have enough time, we just have too many things. Do you know what I mean? So I had to
Exactly.
kind of think, well, what am I going to not do here? Do you know what I mean? Because I can't fit all of this in. But this liquid modernity, neoliberal capitalism would say, no, go on, keep achieving, be the best version of yourself, wouldn't it? I suppose. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, my parents can't believe that I've had over 10 jobs and I'm
Yeah.
only in my early 30s. I'm not going to tell you how
Yeah.
old exactly I am, but yeah, I've
Yeah. Yeah.
I've
No,
had
it's true. And
over
I mean,
10 jobs.
yeah, and I mean, and that's what's increasingly happening, isn't it? My dad
Hmm.
had two. One of them was very brief when he left school, and then the job, the organization he worked for, he had slightly different jobs. So not well, not really, but slightly different jobs,
Hmm.
but worked for the same organization for all his work and life. You know what I mean? Now, I have dipped around a bit, but I've only had two things that I've kind of done. I was in IT first, and then I was in social work, and I'm still in social work, really, even though I'm teaching. So I've had, he had one, maybe two. I've had maybe three or four, maybe five. You've had 10 already.
I've
Do you know what I mean?
worked in I've worked in shops, I've worked in recruitment, I've worked as a primary
Yeah,
teacher, I've worked as a secondary teacher, I've worked in further
yeah,
education. I mean, I've worked in higher education as well. I've
yeah.
worked in mainstream schools and special needs schools. There's probably more than 10, to be honest.
And picking up on kind of Bauman's idea, that creates a certain kind of churn that you're always adapting, always changing, always transforming, always learning a new thing,
Hmm.
always wondering where you fit into this organization or that organization, aren't you? So we've got to become, it's that bit that you said before about the fact that we've got to flex our
Flexible.
identity. Yeah, we've got to
Yeah.
flex our identity and who we are, to kind of fit the script that is almost dictated to us by the flexibility that neoliberalism demands. Yeah.
Of course, and I'm thinking about this now, and this must be so hard for neurodivergent people, for example. So,
Mm-hmm.
autism, you
Yeah.
can't just be flexible and change your ways. You're born like
No.
that.
No. Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
with, well, I guess with ADHD you can be more flexible, but again, it's difficult. And I'm speaking from personal experience because I'm neurodivergent. I've got
Okay.
ADHD and I don't hide it. It's been a blessing. It's been a curse at times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Uh, Go on
The
then. What did Bauman say next?
the other thing I want to talk about is the structure when it comes to institutions in like family, religion. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about work, massive decline in marriage rates and a rise in divorce rates as well. But we've covered this briefly. But what's actually quite interesting is that long marriage is no longer the norm for many societies. It's not just for the UK. So it's that increase in parent household or child-free lifestyle. So we've got a lot more choice. It's more acceptable now. Um, Families are scattered everywhere, geographically speaking. So that reduces a lot of the support that you would get from families, making life harder. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's another thing that we need to really think about when it comes to today's society and
Yeah.
acknowledge the fact that it's not as easy as what people make it out to be. Um, so what do you
Absolutely.
think about that then?
Well, I'll tell you what came in. Two things. Oh, I wish I hadn't said that. Two things came into my head, I suppose. And the first one, I like to think about. I've talked about this before in various places, and I taught students about it. And one of our colleagues often kind of gives me a good kicking when I say this. It's one of the unintended consequences of feminism and Thatcherism. You see, so all of you women back like 25 years ago or 30 years ago, You all decided you wanted to work, so now you all work. Do you know what I mean? So there's a couple of things here. Now you all work. So now there's nobody to look after the bairns and there's nobody to look after the old folks. Now, I should have me I'm a feminist t-shirt on because, I think women are equal to men, all that stuff. I agree with all that stuff. And that's not my point. My point is not that women shouldn't be in the workplace. It's not that women shouldn't have the same opportunities. They absolutely should. It's just often when we conceive of something and then implement it, we can't spot what the unintended consequences are going to be.
Yeah, that's it.
So feminism, great. You can't, for me anyway, you can't argue against it. All that kind of stuff. I mean, I've worked in social work. I've worked in a female-dominated and led profession. I've been managed by women, and I'm managed by a woman now. It's not a problem. But the consequences, I just need to keep saying that, the consequences of it are there's nobody to look after the bairns and nobody to look after the old people. That's the consequence of it that we have to deal with as a society. And then you add into that, the Thatcherite sell-off of social housing, council housing, and then the rise of house prices across the 80s and probably in the 90s, I guess, which means now the two-income family, that has to be a thing, broadly speaking, doesn't it? You know what I mean? So now people, well, you buy your house based on your family income. So now people have bought a house, have invested in a property based on two incomes. So now even if you want more kids and you've invested in a house based on two incomes, you've got to keep having two incomes. So, so we're stuck now, and in this bind of what if a woman wanted to not work, stay at home and look, or a man even stay at home and look after the kids, they can't do that anymore because house prices are such that two incomes are required if that's the size of house or whatever you've kind of bought into. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean?
It does, and it's totally exhausting as well, having to, especially women who or even men have kids to look after the children, maintain a successful career, maintain the house. I mean, looking after a house is literally one of the hardest things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I find it quite difficult.
It's that division of labour, isn't it? The solution, and I think feminists say this. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think this that the division of labour was helpful. If you go back to kind of pre-industrial revolution, if you go back there, the division of labour was somebody had to stop at home, so women kind of weaved and did things like that and baked bread and did all those kind of things, and men went off and ploughed fields and stuff, and that was largely to do with physical ability, strength. It was largely, do you know what I mean? So the problem, the maybe a better solution. God, we're getting very philosophical now.
Okay.
Maybe a better solution than men and women being in the workplace would have been valuing what women or men could do at home and rewarding that in some way, with maybe tax reductions for the wage earner or something like that, where that the value that somebody being at home, man or woman, somebody being at home with the kids and looking after house could have added to society, the value that could have added, would that not have potentially been a good thing as well? I don't know.
It would have, definitely, but also I think, for example, again, I've done a lot of research on domestic violence. So, for example, if women only had the role of being a parent and a carer, how do you escape that kind of relationship? Unless obviously there's welfare. But in some countries there isn't. So it's quite difficult. So then you're stuck in this horrific situation where you can't do anything about it.
What I love here is this is the thing that creates most beauty in the world is exactly what we're doing here now. We're engaging in critical thinking, and I think this is the thing that's missing from the world now, because you're saying, oh, but yes, this, and I'm going, ah, yeah, but this, and then you're going, ah, yeah, but this. And what that demonstrates, which I think is one of the problems we've got in our politics in this country now, is everybody just goes, here's the solution. So at the minute it's get rid of all the refugees and asylum seekers. Then everything else will be fine. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, it won't be. It won't be, because it's more complicated than that. You know what I mean? And that's what we're saying, isn't it? Wouldn't it be great if women could stay at home? Ah, yeah, but no, it wouldn't be for some women. Ah, right, okay, yeah, well, and people are looking for a soundbite, black and white solutions to society's issues and problems when there aren't any. And I think that's one of the problems that we kind of face today. Do you think?
Definitely. No, I agree. And in an ideal world, it will be great, but unfortunately, the world doesn't operate in that
No,
ideal,
no,
perfect scenario. So it's
no,
different.
no,
People,
no.
situations are different. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's a good
Do
thing
you
and
ever,
it's a bad thing because it is exhausting, as I said.
absolutely.
Working, looking after children, maintaining the house, having a hobby. Oh, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
have a hobby because I haven't got
Well,
time.
I know. Well, whenever,
I
yeah,
don't.
and yeah, I mean, you probably know this about me. I talk about well-being a lot and resilience and all that kind of stuff, and having hobbies and all that kind of thing is a really important part of that. And I'll talk to often because I'm often talking to social workers, and social workers. There's a huge percentage of social workers are well, women, and a huge amount of those women, a large number of those women are women who have children, who are of that still of the school age, you know what I mean? And I'll say to them, so you need a morning routine. You need a morning routine where you get up and you maybe do some stretching and some yoga and you have some meditation time. And they're like, aye, right, okay, Stephen, what are you on about, man? Do you know what I mean? It's hit the ground running on a morning when you get up and you don't have time to do any of those things. So yeah, and yeah, so it makes life demanding and tiring, really, really tiring. Do you know what I mean? So yeah,
Capitalist society.
yeah,
Capitalist
absolutely,
society.
absolutely. Why don't you give us one more of Bauman's things, and then I think what I'm thinking is this is a two-parter because we've talked loads here, and
Yeah.
yeah, so give us another one of Bauman's things, and then we'll summarize, and then we'll come back to this in the next episode.
So my favorite one, I'll give you my favorite one, which is the consumer culture. So it's about
Ah,
the fact that we're consumers, and that's often linked with fashion and clothes, for example. So we now kind of assess how intelligent and how successful somebody is, and we shouldn't, by how much wealth they have. Don't you agree? In
absolutely.
today's
Yeah,
society, people
yeah.
often think if you live in I don't know, a massive house and you drive a Porsche and a Mac, you're very intelligent, very successful. That's not normally the case. That's not always
No,
the case. It sometimes is,
no.
but it's not always the case. So it's that, designing the designer clothes, luxury accessories to show your status, to show what you can do. It's quite flashy if you think about it.
Mm, mm,
And I mean, I'm as well partly to blame because of many things, like, for example, fashion. I love
mm,
fashion, and
mm.
there's certain handbags that I've bought, and I just think, why? What was the point in
Yeah.
that? But it's just that consumerism, that culture. You want to fit in, you want to have the latest stuff. Unfortunately, that's one of my guilty pleasures, I guess, buying, consuming, not
Yeah.
just with clothes, with so many things. Like, for example, stuff around the house. My grandma's got the same microwave. She's had the same microwave for 20 years. I've changed three and they've been absolutely fine. I've just wanted a new one.
I
Why?
know. It's really interesting, isn't it? Because yeah, we all fall foul of the same things, and I
Mm,
think that shows, doesn't it? That shows um, that shows how insidious this neoliberal capitalism and liquid modernity. That shows how insidious it is. Because even people like us that know about it still end up doing the same thing, still consuming too much, still, I mean, for me, it used to be clothes, I suppose, back in the day, less so now. Um, but like for me, it would be like, craft ale, that kind of thing. If I go to the shop, for example, that's just one example of many things. In tech, I love bits of tech and stuff, but craft ale, if I go and there's a new can by a new company, you say, well, I'll have to try that. And
yeah.
it's like, well, and then you try it and you think, tastes on and off like the other ones, like all the other ones. Do you know what I mean? And it's this branding, isn't it? I'll tell you what's really interesting at the minute. Stopping you in your story there.
Oh
It's
no.
this drive, isn't it? It's this drive.
Hmm.
You've probably seen adverts on TV for McDonald's. In order to get past the watershed, they can't show unhealthy food before a certain time.
Oh,
So now there are McDonald's adverts and adverts for other people where the product isn't actually in the advert.
oh, really? I
Just the
don't watch.
Well,
TV,
no,
so I
I don't
haven't
watch
seen
much
it.
either. Yeah, I just don't watch much either. And we normally record things so we can fast forward through the adverts because I hate them for all the reasons you've just
Yeah,
been
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah,
Because I end up
exactly.
buying things I don't need. You know what I mean? But yeah, so now there's a drive in advertising in order to get round some of these rules that you
Yeah,
show the experience of McDonald's without showing any food. So you show a particular type of family maybe, or you show a particular kind of pleasurable experience going on that actually doesn't have the food or the restaurant or whatever in it, but it has the logo. It has the logo of McDonald's in it. So you think, if I eat McDonald's, my life will be like that. So they don't even have to put the food on the television screen now in order to advertise, because we've become so entrenched in these symbols, haven't we? These
it's so
symbols have become so
interesting.
entrenched in what we do. So yeah. Well, I think that's a good lot for people to consume for themselves as information to
Yes,
take in and have a look. So I'm gonna draw us to a conclusion, and what we'll do is we'll get this up online. People can have a think about it and tell us what they think maybe in the comments, and then what we can do is we can pick up the other parts of liquid modernity in the next one. What do you think?
definitely.
Good
I
plan.
think that's a great idea.
All
People,
right.
be kind to us. Please do not say anything that's nasty. I can't deal with criticism. I will cry.
I'll filter the comments, Zeta. I'll filter the
Yeah,
comments.
just positive ones.
Absolutely. All right, good. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll be back with more on this liquid modernity and capitalism, and a bit on communism from
Oh,
Zeta
yes.
very soon.
Tell you all
We'll
about
do
my
that.
experience.
Take care. See you next time.
Thanks.